There is a tomato plant growing in my garden right now that I did not plant. I did not buy the seed. I did not start it indoors under a grow light. I did not harden it off on the porch. A cherry tomato fell off the vine last August, hit the dirt, sat there through winter, and this spring a cluster of seedlings came up in the exact same spot like nothing happened. The plant replanted itself, and it is not the only one. I've got arugula in paths I haven't touched since October, cilantro where the old cilantro bolted last July, dill coming up between the raised beds from seeds I never scattered, garlic I left in the ground 2 years ago that has tripled into a thick clump. None of it was intentional at first. But once I stopped fighting it and started paying attention, my seed budget dropped to almost nothing. Here's the part that the seed companies would prefer you not think about. Most vegetables are trying to reproduce. That is what plants do. They flower, set seed, drop those seeds, and the next generation emerges on its own. The entire seed packet industry depends on you pulling plants out before they finish that cycle, cleaning up the beds, and starting over every spring. On a schedule that benefits the company printing the packet, not the biology of the plant in the ground. This is 10 vegetables that will replant themselves if you let them finish what they started. Let's get into it. Number 1. Green onions. You have been throwing away the part that grows back. Every green onion you've ever bought came with a small white root end at the bottom. You cut the green tops, use them, threw that root end in the trash. That root end is alive, though it has active meristematic tissue at the base, a growth zone that resumes dividing cells within 24 to 48 hours of being cut. Put it in a glass of water on your windowsill. Within 3 days, new green growth appears from the center. Within 2 weeks, you have a full-sized green onion. Transfer it to soil and it keeps producing indefinitely. Cut the greens, they regrow. Cut them again, they regrow again. Plant bunching varieties like evergreen hardy white or Tokyo long white in the garden, and the bulbs divide laterally every season. 1 becomes 4. 4 becomes 16. The patch expands on its own with 0 replanting. Welsh bunching onions, which despite the name originated in Siberia and China over 2,000 years ago. No are true perennials that survive to minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit and come back every spring without anyone asking them to. Number 2. Radishes. The fastest self-seeder in the garden, and the pods literally explode. Most people harvest radishes, eat them, and buy more seed. What they've never seen is what happens if you leave a few in the ground past harvest. The plant sends up a 2 to 3 foot flower stalk, produces clusters of seed pods, and when those pods dry out, they do not just open, they split explosively, launching seeds several feet from the parent plant. 1 radish left to bolt produces roughly 300 seeds. Those seeds germinate in 3 to 7 days under cool, moist conditions. In zone 7 and warmer, a summer bolted radish drops seeds that come up as a fall crop without any intervention. Here is a detail I genuinely enjoy. In Oaxaca, Mexico, there is an annual festival on December 23rd called Noche de Rabanos, Night of the Radishes, where enormous carved radish sculptures are exhibited in the town square. It has been running since at least 1897. And in ancient Greece, golden replicas of radishes were offered to the god Apollo at Delphi. The radish has been culturally significant for over 4,000 years, and it is trying to replant itself in your garden right now if you would stop pulling every single one out of the ground. Number 3. Lettuce. The thing every gardener hates about it is the thing that makes it free forever. Lettuce bolting is the most common complaint in vegetable gardening. The plant sends up a tall stalk, the leaves turn bitter, and most people rip it out in frustration. What they are watching is a lettuce plant successfully completing its reproductive cycle, and if they left it alone for 3 more weeks, they would never need to buy lettuce seed again. Here is what most people do not know. The earliest cultivated lettuce in ancient Egypt, around 2680 BC, was not grown for its leaves. It was grown for oil extracted from its seeds. The self-seeding behavior was the original point of the crop. The leaves came later. A single bolted lettuce plant produces hundreds of seeds equipped with a feathery pappus, like a dandelion, that carries them on the wind across your garden. Loose-leaf varieties like black-seeded Simpson and oak leaf are the most aggressive self-seeders. Let 2 or 3 plants bolt each season. The seeds scatter, germinate in the next cool window, and you have lettuce appearing on its own in fall or the following spring. The thinnings are baby greens. The bolting you've been fighting is the plant trying to give you free lettuce forever. Number 4. Cilantro. 2 crops from 1 plant, and it replants itself while handing you both. Cilantro bolts in heat faster than almost anything in the garden. Planted in May, it flowers by June. Most people consider that a failure. It is not. It is the plant giving you 3 things simultaneously. The leaves are cilantro. The seeds that form after the flowers dry are coriander, the spice. Same plant. two completely different culinary products, and when those dry seed heads shatter and fall, they germinate the following season on their own. Coriander seeds were found inside Tutankhamun's tomb, dating to roughly 1325 BC. They were found in Ramses II's tomb as well. Seeds from the same plant turned up on the Ulu Buran shipwreck off the coast of Turkey, a 14th century BC trading vessel, confirming an active Bronze Age spice trade built around a crop that replants itself for free. The herb is referenced in the Torah. Ancient Chinese used it in potions they believed granted immortality. Let every other planting bolt while you keep harvesting the rest. The bolted plants drop seeds that stagger themselves naturally. You end up with cilantro appearing in waves across the season instead of one crop that disappears in 3 weeks. Number 5. Dill. Roman gladiators ate it for strength. Puritan children chewed the seeds during church, and it comes back every year whether you want it to or not. Dill self-seeds so aggressively that the honest limitation belongs right at the top. It will appear in beds you did not plant it in, between pavers, in containers, in the compost pile. If you have ever grown dill and let it flower, you already know this. The plant produces large, flat-topped umbel seed heads with dozens of lightweight seeds per head. When dry, those seeds scatter in the wind and germinate in cool soil without any special treatment. One plant can produce hundreds of seeds across multiple flower heads. In zones 9b through 11, dill survives as a short-lived perennial. Everywhere else, it is entirely seed-driven, and the seeds are relentless. Ancient Romans fed dill to gladiators before combat, believing it fortified strength and courage. In colonial America, Puritans and Quakers gave children dill seeds to chew during long church services. They were called meeting house seeds, used to suppress appetite and keep kids quiet through 3-hour sermons. The plant has been useful to humans for thousands of years, and it has been replanting itself that entire time without once being asked. One genuine caution. Dill cross-pollinates with fennel. If both are in your garden, the volunteers may taste like neither. Keep them separated or accept the surprise. Number 6. Arugula. This one does not ask permission. If dill self-seeds aggressively, arugula self-seeds like it is trying to colonize your entire property. One bolted plant produces thousands of seeds in pods that split open and scatter across the soil. Those seeds germinate in cool weather, sometimes within days. In mild climates, arugula can produce 3 or 4 generations in a single year from one original sowing. Medieval monasteries in Europe explicitly banned arugula cultivation. Not because it was invasive, though it is, because the monks believed it was an aphrodisiac. Virgil wrote that arugula recalls the lagging wish for sexual delights. The Romans and Egyptians consumed it for exactly that reason. It fell out of widespread use for centuries and was kept alive almost entirely by Italian home gardeners who never stopped growing it. The volunteers appear everywhere. Between pavers, in paths, in beds you did not intend. The young leaves are mild and peppery. The bolted leaves are sharper. The flowers are edible. Harvest the self-seeded volunteers at 3 inches tall, and they are better than anything in a clamshell at the store. And they cost you nothing. Number 7. Kale. The biennial trick nobody tells you about. Kale is not an annual. Most gardening resources treat it like one because most gardeners pull it out at the end of the first season, but kale is a biennial. Year 1, it grows leaves. Year 2, after experiencing winter cold, it sends up a seed stalk, flowers, and drops hundreds of seeds before dying. Those seeds germinate in late summer or fall, and you have a new crop you did not plant. In Scotland, the word kale became so interchangeable with food that it was used as a synonym for dinner itself. Come in for your kale meant come in for supper. During World War II, the British government promoted kale as part of the Dig for Victory campaign specifically because its cold hardiness and biennial self-seeding made it ideal for wartime food security. When the plant survives below 14 degrees Fahrenheit, a frost actually improves the flavor by converting starches to sugars. Red Russian and Siberian kale are the most reliable self-seeders. One honest note. Kale cross-pollinates freely with every other brassica in your garden. Broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, collards. If multiple brassicas are flowering at the same time, your self-seeded kale volunteers may grow into something unrecognizable. Edible, but not what you expected. Number 8. Potatoes. You already know this one because you have been accidentally growing them for years. Anyone who has grown potatoes knows what a volunteer is. You harvest the bed, you think you got everything, and the following spring there are potato plants coming up exactly where last year's crop was. Because you did not get every tuber, you never do. What's sown there is always a small one, 4 inches deep, that the fork missed. That missed tuber overwinters underground. Rising spring soil temperatures and longer days trigger dormancy-breaking hormones. The stored carbohydrates fuel new shoot growth, and the plant emerges and produces its own cluster of tubers by fall. Andean farmers figured this out roughly 8,000 years ago. They deliberately left small tubers in the ground as insurance planting, a backup crop that required zero effort the following season. Here is the honest limitation, and it is the most important one in this video. Volunteer potatoes are the primary overwintering reservoir for late blight, Phytophthora infestans, the pathogen that caused the Irish potato famine. The disease cannot survive in dead plant material, but it can survive in living tuber tissue sitting in your soil. So, if your crop was healthy, volunteers are fine. If you had any blight issues, dig out every tuber you can find and start fresh with certified seed potatoes. That is the one scenario where the free replanting works against you. Number 9. Garlic. 7,000 years of cultivation, and the plant still multiplies itself faster than you can eat it. Garlic is not an annual, it is a perennial bulb that multiplies underground when left in place. Every clove left in the ground becomes a new bulb the following season. That bulb contains 4 to 12 new cloves, each of which becomes its own bulb the year after that. Hardneck varieties multiply at a ratio of roughly 400 to 600%. Plant 10 pounds, harvest 40 to 60. Workers building the Egyptian pyramids were paid partly in garlic. A documented crop failure due to Nile flooding caused one of only 2 recorded slave revolts in ancient Egypt, and garlic was at the center of it. Clay garlic bulbs were placed in tombs. Preserved cloves were found inside Tutankhamun's burial chamber. Roman soldiers carried it as a daily staple. The crop has been under continuous cultivation for at least 7,000 years, and for most of that history, nobody replanted it annually because there was no reason to. Leave a few bulbs unharvested each season. The patch expands on its own. Save your largest cloves and replant them every fall, and over 5 to 7 years, you develop a garlic strain adapted specifically to your soil and microclimate. The seed garlic industry depends on you buying new stock annually. The biology of the plant does not require it. Number 10, tomatoes. A single fruit contains up to 300 seeds, and winter does the germination work for free. That volunteer tomato I mentioned at the start. Here is why it works, and the mechanism is genuinely elegant. Every tomato seed is surrounded by a gelatinous coating that contains a natural germination inhibitor, a biological lock that prevents the seed from sprouting inside the fruit while it is still on the vine. When a tomato falls to the ground and rots, naturally occurring soil microbes ferment the sugars in the fruit, producing alcohol that dissolves the inhibitor and strips away the gel coat. The same microbial fermentation also generates antibiotics that suppress certain seed-borne diseases. The rotting fruit is not just freeing the seeds, it is sanitizing them. Those cleaned seeds sit in the soil through winter. Or freezing and thawing cycles crack any remaining dormancy. By spring, when soil temperatures climb past 60 degrees, they germinate. A single cherry tomato contains 50 to 300 seeds. One fruit that hits the dirt and makes it through winter can produce dozens of seedlings, thin to the strongest 1 or 2, and you have vigorous, already hardened-off plants adapted to your local conditions. Cherry varieties are the most prolific self-seeders. Mats wild cherry and sweet million drop fruit constantly and produce dense volunteer patches the following year. The volunteers will not be true to type if the parent was a hybrid, but for open pollinated heirlooms, the biology handles everything. The seed industry sells you the same germination process in a plastic tray under a grow light for $15. The ground does it for free, 10 vegetables. Yeah, every one of them capable of coming back on its own without you buying seeds, starting transplants, or setting foot in a garden center. The biology was always doing this. The only thing standing in the way was the habit of cleaning everything up and starting over every year because a seed packet told you to. Let a few plants bolt. Leave a few roots in the ground. Stop pulling out every last tuber. The garden is trying to replant itself. Your only job is to stop preventing it. Which one are you letting go to seed first? Drop it in the comments. I read all of them. That's it for today. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.